What white parents and black teens can learn from Colin KaepernickBut. Breaking racial barriers while raising their children to thrive often meant that black parents of their generation felt they had to downplay or sidestep aspects of racism. Being too vociferous about racial injustices could jeopardize the scant progress they had made as individuals and as a people. That's why my parents taught us how to get along in white schools and workplaces in a way that wouldn't draw too much negative attention. Even in the privacy of our own home, we didn't explicitly talk much about race. That I remember my mom inadvertently teaching me to spot the other black people in any given situation. She would say, "Oh, look. There's some us's." By which she meant there were other black people like us. But as a young black male in America, I had to navigate all kinds of stereotypes and prejudices that no child should have to consider. There were the high school basketball games I attended as a fan where the other school, usually white and wealthy, called us the ghetto school. And there was the isolation of being at a high school comprised mostly of black and Latinx students but being in college prep courses where most of my classmates were white.
That feeling of isolation only increased when I went to a college that had an overwhelmingly white student body. For a couple of years, I was the only black resident on my floor in the dorm. In most of my classes I was the only black student. Even though the protests of 2020 have largely subsided, they have left a remnant of adults and young people asking questions about the racial status quo, their place in a society still divided by the color line, and what they can do about it. For young people struggling through what it means to be black or biracial, Colin in Black and White offers engaging storytelling and social commentary with a dose of humor that makes the bitter pill of our racial reality a bit easier to swallow. It raises important questions about what it means to be black in a society that favors whiteness and gives words to the inner struggles of trying to form a healthy self-image in contrast to the many negative portrayals of blackness that abound. It does so with a sensitive eye toward complex racial dynamics and with a story based on someone who's fast building a legacy as a culture-shifting activist and social entrepreneur. The young Kaepernick is played by Jaden Michael. Although only a teenager, he's been acting most of his life and it shows. He plays the role with both innocence and depth. I had the opportunity to interview him on a podcast about how he approached playing a young Kaepernick and what he hopes viewers will learn from the show. From our interaction I can say that Jaden's on-screen acting chops are only surpassed by his real-life insight and critical analysis about issues of race and justice. He took a risk in taking on this role when so many view Kaepernick as a controversial figure. This kind of willingness to challenge himself and put his professional reputation on the line makes Jaden a young man whose career I'll be watching with interest for years to come. Mary Louise Parker and Nick Offerman portray Kaepernick's parents as well-meaning but largely clueless white adoptive parents of a black son. They are at times affable and ignorant. One second you may think, it wouldn't be terrible to have a glass of wine with these folks, and the next you may feel like hurling both expletives and objects at the TV screen. In nearly every instance of covert or overt racism that Jaden's Colin faces, his parents' reaction seems to be to tell him to work harder. Parker and Offerman's performances portray a complicated relationship, marked by parental failure to confront the policies, practices, systems and mindsets that make life so challenging even for someone as outstandingly talented as Kaepernick. The series walks through Kaepernick's high school years as a preternaturally talented multi-sport athlete. As his profile on the field grows, so do the obstacles he faces as a biracial black child maneuvering in largely white settings. I couldn't relate at all to being an excellent athlete. I pretty much hated playing organized team sports in high school, but I could certainly empathize with the difficulties of growing up while black. In one episode, Kaepernick notices how differently he is treated from his white teammates when he and his family go to a hotel to stay for a baseball tournament. White hotel employees confront him with all kinds of passive-aggressive messages that say, "We're watching you, and you'll be out of here the second we think you've stepped out of line." The mere glimpse of an athletic black youth is enough to raise suspicion and resentment. Colin in Black and White is helpful for anyone, but it's ideal for white people seeking to become more racially aware and for black adolescents and teens who are searching for their own ways to become more conscious of their racialized place in the world.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.